Okay. I think everything's working. At least I hope so. Okay. All right, cool. So we can get this started. All right, well, what's going on, everybody? As you can see, this is a bit of a different change. Is this straight? Okay. So, yes, this is a bit of a change in terms of, well, really just the scenery, right? The way these videos are going to be recorded. So, I thought of an idea to continue the series of videos that I've done in the past where I go through and just talk about like random topics about the gym, about health, nutrition, whatever it might be. And I thought it would be cool to combine that with something that I'm going to be starting today or in this video. So starting today, I don't think I've talked at all about this, but starting today, I will be going through a cut. I'm going to be cutting, and I am anticipating and hoping to lose around like 20-ish pounds. This morning, I weighed in at 184.7 pounds. And that was something that I've gained over, I think, about like 8-ish months. Right, I started at around like July, June-ish July. I began the process of going through like a bulk. I've never done a like controlled bulk like that before, where when I started it, I was telling myself that I'm not gonna just eat everything and gain a bunch of unnecessary weight and fat and shit, but instead I wanted to see how much muscle mass I can effectively put on while trying to gain weight. I started off at 165-ish pounds, so that's about like a 20-pound increase, right? And so that was something again that I gained over about 8 months, and I told myself that today really. Like starting March, I wanted to go on a cut. I wanted to go ahead and lean down again to see how much muscle, in a sense, I've put on, from those 7 to 8 months of bulking. And so that's what we're going to be starting today. Now, and I feel like I've talked about this in a previous video where, bulking, cutting, is that something that I would really recommend to anybody? It really just depends. I feel like it really depends on the individual and what your goals are. If you are at a healthy body weight again and you are looking on to put on muscle mass and you don't mind putting on potentially a little bit of body fat, then I'd say go for it. If anything, that's just putting your body in a state where you're just allowing it to build muscle, right? But if you're a bit on the overweight side, if you got a lot of fat on you, no, I wouldn't really recommend to do something like that. Instead, I would get down to a body fat percentage that you're comfortable with, you're fine with, and then potentially thinking about going on a bulk from there if you decide to do that. Again, a lot of people decide to go through like a whole main gain and just stay at the same weight and try to put on muscle. You can go ahead and do that. For me in the past, that's worked, but I've just found that putting on strength and muscle while staying at the same weight, it's just a bit difficult for me to do so. It's not impossible, but it's a bit difficult for me to do so. And I don't mind putting on a little bit of body fat. So, yeah, that's what I did starting in June, July. And so now, we've gone ahead and concluded the bulk. And I was honestly thinking about extending it like a week or two later, but if I'm being honest, I just don't have that much of an appetite anymore, and I'm kind of over the bulk. I don't mind cutting it short, like 2 weeks. just so I can start this, because again, I just don't, at this point, I feel like I'd just be forcing it. And I really don't see myself gaining too much muscle in a span of 2 weeks. And it's not even worth it for me, if I'm being honest, if it's going to be something that I'm going to be like dragging through and just eating unnecessarily. And I don't know. I just didn't want to do it personally. So I'm happy with how much strength I put on today. And I'll talk about this in a little bit, but I'm actually on my way to the gym to hit a push day. And I'm going to be testing my strength in pretty much the movements that I've been doing, just to see where I ended this bulk off at. For the cut, one thing, and I'll talk about this more so when we, kind of get later into the video. When it comes down to cutting, I guess there's a couple things that, in my opinion, everyone needs to kind of consider if they're going to go through even a bulking phase, but especially a cutting phase. There's really like 4 different areas in which you should be looking to kind of plan for. Your workout split, your nutrition, your sleep, and your stress levels. I'm going to start with sleep and stress levels, since that might seem a bit odd to say, but those truly do make a huge impact on just your ability to cut or bulk. And that's just coming from personal experience. So I guess starting with like stress levels, right? So, when you're going through these bulks or cuts, you're doing a lot of other things in life. It's just not centered around that, right? So when it comes down to your stress levels, at least to me, I want to make sure that I try to make it as optimal as possible, so my stress levels aren't too high. So what could that look like? Well, I mean, if I have like a busy or stressful week of work, maybe I do something fun on the weekends, or just try to find whatever way makes the most sense for you to limit your stress or alleviate it. Try to do that, especially when you're going through these bulking or cutting phases, because stress levels do truly make an impact on your ability to either gain weight or lose weight. Depending on how your stress levels are, it kind of mixes or messes up with the whole biology of the human body. And I'm not an expert, anything on that subject, but I do feel that if I'm really stressed out, my ability to perform good in the gym, or even me losing weight, I feel like it definitely has stalled a couple of times. So in other words, if you're going to be doing something like that, cutting or bulking, make sure that your stress levels are in control, essentially. Try to do your best to make sure you're not as stressed when you're doing something like this, because it truly does affect your ability to lose weight or gain weight. Second, sleep. So sleep, I feel like, is a no-brainer. You obviously just need sleep so that your body can recover from what you're going to be doing. That it doesn't even matter if you're bulking or cutting, right? So sleep is going to be especially important when you're going through one of these phases, especially cutting, because what I'm essentially doing is almost putting my body in a starvation mode. And so it's going to be working overtime for me to try to keep as much muscle as possible and just do my day-to-day stuff. Right, so I'm kind of putting a lot more stress on my body as opposed to now, because I'm not giving it enough nutrition, or at least what it had before. So sleep is going to be super, super important, just so I can give my body enough time to, again, recover. So I feel like that one's pretty self-explanatory. So sleep, stress levels, some things that you definitely want to make sure you have under control, because they truly do make a big impact on this. I feel like a lot of people do overlook that. They just go boom, boom, boom. They have the effort there, but their sleep schedule is just horrendous, and they might not see results because of that. So definitely sleep, getting your 8 hours and whatnot, and your stress levels are going to be super, super important. Now, nutrition and the workout is next. So nutrition-wise, and I've talked about this in a previous video, so if you haven't seen that one, check it out. I'm pretty much talking about how to track your nutrition properly, or how to count your calories properly. When it comes down to cutting, it's just calories in, calories out. Because I want to keep as much muscle as I can, going through this cut, The only thing that I'm concerned about is just my protein intake. My protein intake and how many calories I get in every single day. Carbohydrates, fats, and everything else, I'm not too concerned about that. If you have a, for the most part, well-balanced diet, I feel like you hardly need to worry about that stuff. So for me, just getting in a pound of protein uh, or a gram of protein per pound of body weight. So for me, if I'm starting off at like 185 pounds, so getting around like 185 grams of protein, that's all really I care about for the day. And again, that's and the calories. Now, the calories, that is going to be just depending on what your maintenance is usually at. And luckily for me, I do have an Apple Watch, which does make it easier for me to get a sense as to like how much I'm burning each day. So I use that number that it gives me to judge how many calories I should be eating in a day, right? So like for example, maybe today or tomorrow I burn, like, I'm just making a number up, 3,000 calories. Maybe tomorrow I only burn 2,500. Well, because of that, I might change how much I eat today and tomorrow, right? So again, nutrition, the biggest things that matter, calories and the amount of protein. And lastly, workouts. So nutrition is another like important piece to this. Or not nutrition, if I said that, my workout. Now, if your goal, especially when you're going through a cut, if your goal is to try to keep as much strength as possible or keep as much muscle as possible, which for a lot of people, I'm assuming that's the case. When it comes down to your workout, I feel like I'm a strong believer that you really shouldn't change your workouts too much. Before, my biggest like prioritization was strength training. So I was choosing exercises like the bench press to help me build my overall strength. And all those exercises I'm gonna continue doing even on this cut. And I'm gonna keep the same training style. I'm gonna go as heavy as I can and train as intensely as I can so that I keep, all the muscle that I have, hopefully. And I feel that's also another thing that's sometimes like overlooked, or it's a myth that, if you're cutting, you should do more reps or more sets or lower the weight that you do. And I think it's the complete opposite. You shouldn't be changing anything that you do, because if you do change something, then your body isn't going to really have a reason to keep that muscle, right? If you lower the weight on everything, then your body isn't going to feel the need to, push or to keep the muscle that was needed before to push the weight that you were doing before, right? The body really just adapts to what you're doing. So I don't see the need to change that. And in my last cut that I did a while back, I kept that philosophy and I was able to keep pretty much all of the muscle that I had. So I'm gonna just continue that with this. Right, so that's really the last thing. And if you're curious about like what workout I've been doing, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and actually post it in the description if you're curious about like what I do. It's not something that I'm recommending necessarily, but in case you're curious on what I do, I'll go ahead and leave that there. But yeah, those are like the 4 things that I think, especially if you're cutting, but even on a bulk, these are things that you should be planning and thinking about to make it a successful like phase, what you're gonna be doing. Definitely plan this stuff out, but you don't need to beat yourself up over it either. And that's one thing that I talked about in my previous videos, where I try my best to like not make fitness that complicated or as complicated as it might seem. Try to find ways to simplify things. So because I have this plan already in my head, I just need to execute it. There's not much that I really need to like think about at this point. I know what the calories and protein that I need to hit today. I know what my workout's already going to be. I'm going to be logging all of this. That's another important piece. You want to make sure you log all of this so you have something to track. And yeah, I mean, other than that, again, just making sure that my sleep and my stress levels are okay or good. And that's really all that is. So, and the reason why I say that is because I feel like when it comes down to fitness, a lot of people tend to say like, oh, in order for me to be healthy, it has to like take over my entire life. And I feel like that's not really the truth at all. Today or this week I don't work, but next week I will be, and I'm gonna be making these like a vlog, like a daily vlog. So you know, you guys can see kind of what I do to get through this stuff on a day-to-day basis while juggling other things like hanging out with friends, work, and all that stuff. So it doesn't really have to be complicated unless you want it to be. It can be pretty simple. You just need to plan ahead, right? So, yeah, those are really the main things and the things to really consider, at least that I'm going to consider when I'm going through this cutting phase. Now, why am I even doing this in the first place? I'm not even sure if I addressed this. Like, why am I going to be like vlogging, like I just said, these types of, or this series or this kind of phase? Two reasons. One, because I want to continue to record like tips for people if they find it useful on like these different subjects that we've covered. So, you know, like how to count your calories and doing all these things. So I'm still going to be doing that, but it's going to be in more of this like vlog on the go type style. And so that's one, that's reason one. I want to keep doing what I was doing before, but also two, and it kind of goes back to reason one, I want to make those things more applicable to you guys. So what that means is you'll actually see me like following the tips that I'm sharing on a day-to-day basis by me going through this cut. A lot of those principles and a lot of those things that I have already talked about and I will be talking about, these are going to be coming up on a day-to-day basis. And like you'll be able to see firsthand how I like, you know, go through these things and like what my thoughts are for a particular day on how I want to approach a workout, or how I want to, you know, when it comes to my calories, maybe something comes up that I want to talk about, right? So it'll feel very, at least in my opinion, it'll feel and look more applicable. It's not just me kind of sitting behind a camera and, you know, spitting out some information and you guys just take it and leave, right? So you'll actually be able to, you know, watch me go through this on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, so I'm excited. I'm actually really excited to do this. Now these vlogs, I am going to try to upload these on a daily basis. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do these on the weekends though. So this cut, just to give you some information, I'm giving myself 10 weeks to lose about 20 pounds, roughly. So 10 weeks or 70 days, I'm gonna be trying to lose about 20 pounds. And I know that sounds very aggressive, because it is, hence why I'm not recommending this to anybody. This is something that is a bit of like, it's a bit of an aggressive cut. You're talking about maybe like 2 pounds of fat loss a week. And that's a lot. I don't want anyone to think that that isn't, and that's not something that I'd recommend to everybody or the majority of people. But there's a couple things that you have to understand about me doing this. One, in order for me, because I have a deadline that I already want to hit, like a timeline or like a period, like a date, that's what I should be saying, a date that I should be like 20 pounds less. So in order for me to do that, I have to go through a process like this. And what I'm doing, I've done before. So that is something also to keep into account. I've done this before. I know if something comes up or if I need to make adjustments, I know how to do that, and I'm okay with doing that. You know, when I go through this cut right now, especially in the beginning, it might not be that difficult for me. Because, you know, when you're just starting a cut, your body still has a lot of nutrition, you know, it still has a lot of food in your system, so you really don't feel it as much. But the further I get into it, the more I'm going to feel this cut. And I am perfectly okay with either slowing the cut down or completely stopping for a little bit if I need to, if I feel like my workouts take too much of a hit or I just don't feel that good overall. I'm okay with stopping or, again, slowing down. And I'm, again, totally fine with doing that. I know how to go ahead and do that. So that's why I'm okay with doing something like this again. And in the past, it has worked. I have been able to do this and keep pretty much all the muscle that I have. But again, in order for me to do this kind of successfully, I need to plan ahead, hence the information that I just kind of gave you. So Yeah, I don't recommend anyone or the majority of people to do this. This is not sustainable whatsoever. I'm only doing this for the 10 weeks. And again, if I can't do it or if I need to stop for a little bit, I'm totally okay with doing that. So, something to keep in mind there. And with the overall like deficit, I'm planning on, just to give you some insight on, anywhere from like a 500 to 1,000 calorie deficit on a daily basis. I'm gonna shoot for 1,000 calories, that being the deficit, to begin with. And again, that's super, super aggressive, but that's kind of what I need to do in order to drop that amount of weight in that short amount of time. And so, again, the biggest things are just making sure that I'm in that deficit on a day-to-day basis and that I hit my protein goal. So, I'm trying to think what else. Because I'm actually, I don't know if I said this already, I'm driving to the gym right now. And I think afterwards I'll talk a little bit about like how my workout was and a couple of other things about my workout split. But at least for now, I think I'll keep it at just that. So there was one other thing that I wanted to bring up. What was it? Hold on, I just parked. But what was the one thing that there was something else. Was it about my workouts? I think that is it. So we talked about the schedule already, so I'm gonna try to do this. Oh, I don't know if I completely got through this, but so I'm gonna try to keep the same like informational stuff, but you'll obviously see me like go through a day to day of what this cut looks like. But yeah, I'm gonna try to do this Monday through Friday, potentially upload Saturday and Sunday. But at least I'll start off with this because I haven't done daily uploads like this in a while, or ever really. And so I want to just try this out. And so because of that, I think I'll start with doing Monday through Fridays, and then Saturday and Sundays I won't upload a video, but I'm still going to be following my training plan that again, if you want to check it out in the description, you can look at it. So I'll still be doing that stuff, but I just won't be recording or uploading it. So we'll just pick it back up on Monday. So we'll go off that assumption for now. If I decide to upload it on the weekends, then I'll go ahead and do it. But yeah, just a heads up there. Okay. Yo, I just remembered what I wanted to say, and it left me again. Honestly, I have no idea. Well, that's okay because I'm gonna go get this workout in, and then afterwards, I'm just gonna talk a little bit more, and then yeah, we'll go ahead and conclude it for the first one. All right, so I'll see you guys in a bit. Boom. Boom! All right, so we are back. We went ahead and just finished with our gym session. It went okay. Today's session went okay. I feel like, so today was a push day again, and I feel like just push overall has been feeling a bit rough like this past week. I think I just need a bit more recovery time. But all in all, it went good. I tested a lot of my maxes today, so that was really cool to keep note of because I'm going to use that once we finish the cut to just make sure that I didn't lose that much muscle or strength. So hopefully we can retain all of that, but I guess time will tell. But yeah, all in all, it went good today. So, and I remembered also, I think there was like a segment where before I left, I was like saying, I was trying to remember what I was going to say, and I remembered what I was going to say finally. So it was in regards to my training plan. So if you remember, right, I was talking about how I am going to keep my workout essentially the same. I'm not going to change anything just so I can make sure that I'm still, maintaining my strength or potentially even like progressing with my strength. So that's going to stay the same. But another piece to that I forgot to add is I'm also going to be adding in some additional cardio throughout my workouts. That's really the only other thing, really the only thing that I'm going to change with my split is just adding a bit of cardio, just so I can just also reassure and make sure that I'm in a deficit, or the deficit that I want to be in. When I like, if I were to recommend cardio to anybody, by no means do I recommend it to be used so that, like, how can I put it? I'd recommend cardio as more so of a tool than the main thing to use to lose weight. So, like, what do I mean by that? I feel like sometimes people tend to use cardio as a way to kind of eat more, or just add in additional calories to their diet, which is fair. That's definitely something that you can do, because ultimately it's calories in, calories out. But the only, I guess, caution that I have for people on that is I don't think it's right, or I don't think it's wise to do that, because you might form the mentality that, oh, in order for me to be able to eat something, I have to do some additional cardio for it, right? And the reason why I say that is because I feel like I definitely used to think that way, where, you know, if I were to eat something like a little extra, I'd feel like almost guilty if I don't do some cardio, some additional cardio to compensate for that. I feel like you can form a pretty unhealthy habit with that, but you know, it's something that you can kind of do, right? Because ultimately it's calories in, calories out. So what I'm trying to say is that essentially, if you're going to be doing cardio, use it more so of a tool. Don't have it overtake and just fuck up your mental when it comes to food, because you should be able to enjoy things in life, and you shouldn't feel guilty for it, right? So that's kind of what I'm just trying to say. But yeah, that's the only thing that I'm going to change up really with my diet, or with my workout routine, is just adding some additional cardio. So that could be like some extra steps. Each day, regardless if I'm cutting or not, I tend to try to get at least 10,000 steps in, just kind of like, just cause. But if I'm cutting, I might do a little bit more cardio, maybe like 10 minutes on the Stairmaster or 10 minutes on the bike, whatever I feel like doing for the day. I'm not very strict on that stuff, because I like a bit of variety, and if I do the same thing over and over and over again, especially when it comes to cardio, I might get bored of it, and it just might be harder for me to follow, you know? So that's why I just keep it flexible and just do whatever I feel like doing when it comes to cardio. But the weight training stuff, that's going to stay consistent. That doesn't really change at all, right? So that's what I was trying to say before I went into the gym, but I forget. You know what I'm saying? It happens. I feel like the pre-workout was just going straight to my brain. But yeah, so yeah, how'd the workout go? So again, the workout went good. I tested all of my maxes for push day. This week, I'm going to use it to test a lot of my maxes. When I say maxes, what I mean by that is like personal records that I have for each of the lifts that I do. It doesn't necessarily mean a 1-rep max, because I don't test for 1-rep maxes on pretty much the majority of the exercises I do. The only ones that I really do it for are the compound lifts. Well, really only the bench press and the squat. That's really it. But I only do that because it's fun for me. You don't really have to do that to test your strength. You can test for like repetitions, and I'd actually recommend people to do that instead, because I feel like if you always test for 1-rep maxes, unless you know what you're doing, you can risk injury, and that's not good, right? So maybe you can test for like repetitions, right? But that's usually what I do, as I always test for repetitions. The only ones that I don't really test for repetitions are like bench press and squat. And so for bench press, with this weight that I'm at right now, so I started off just as a heads up. At the beginning of my bulk, I was barely able to do 205 for like 2 repetitions, right? 205 pounds for 2 repetitions. So that's not even 2 plates. But at the end of this bulk, I was able to do 275 for one rep max, and I was able to do 225 pounds for 8 reps and 245 for 5 reps. So I was able to increase my bench press a significant amount, which I'm super happy about, because at the beginning of this cut, or at this bulk, I wanted to get better at the bench press. I always steered away from it. I feel like it's just because I always like tweaked something. That was always an exercise that I would do, and I would always like fuck up my like shoulder. But after like taking some time to think about it and really just kind of like mature in the gym, I figured out why that was the case. I just wasn't doing enough like stretches or warm-ups, and I just felt more confident doing the workout or the exercise, so I really wanted to test its limits. So I was able to go from, again, barely doing 205 all the way up to 275, and being able to do 225, so 2 plates for 8 reps, which again, I'm super happy about. And ultimately, I want to get 315. So 315 for 1 rep. That'll be the goal for the next time around when I do another bulk. I definitely want to do it again, as long as, you know, by the end of this cut, I see that I did make progress. I definitely do want to do another bulk again, keeping it controlled like always, but definitely want to do it again, so it just keep increasing my strength. But yeah, so did that for bench. Shoulder press. So dumbbell shoulder press is another exercise that I love to do. And on that, I was able to do, so I started off at 70 pounds, each arm 70 pounds for like 6 to 7 reps. And now I'm able to do 85 pounds each arm for like 6 reps. So pretty big increase on dumbbell shoulder press. So super happy about that. And I also tested it out for tricep pushdowns, machine lateral raises as well. That's a pretty common one that I do. And dips, and sometimes I do the incline chest press as well. So yeah, I was able to test it out pretty much on everything but the bench press. I really test, you know, for repetitions at a certain weight, not a 1 rep max. But yeah, so got all those numbers today, and I'll continue to do that for the rest of this week. Tomorrow's going to be a pull day, and then I have my leg day later this week, so I'll be testing those out again, just so I have those numbers and I can compare at the end of this cut. But yeah, so yeah, all in all, super happy with that, and that's how I'm pretty much going to be approaching the rest of this cut. Really is just doing what I've been doing, but just, you know, cutting out food, a little bit more food, and just adding some cardio. I feel like that's really the best way to summarize everything, right? So yeah. And in each video, what I'll probably end up doing is, you know, walk you through what the day looked like for me, talk about any sort of like struggles, because sometimes it does happen. Sometimes I'm just like, damn, I feel like shit. It will happen. I know it's going to happen, but you got to go through those days, right? And just keep kind of going through with the plan. So I'll walk you through how I go about that, and also any sort of other topics that come to mind, right? Like we had a video on how to properly count your calories. So if another topic comes to mind, I'll discuss that as well. But yeah, so I think I'll go ahead and leave it at that, guys. Yeah, appreciate you guys for tuning in. I feel like this new style of videos and recording, I'm super excited about it, because it will kind of show like how I personally go through this stuff. It'll make these topics more applicable. And again, if you run into potentially some struggles, you might see during this series that I run to them as well, and I more than likely will, because there's no cheat code or secret pill to this stuff, right? You just have to kind of be consistent and just keep going through with the plan. And again, there's going to be some days where it's going to be really hard, but you just got to keep going through with it. So yeah, I guess the last thing to bring up, now that I remembered, because like I told you that I will be doing cardio with this plan. When it comes to cardio, because I don't like staying at the gym for like a shit ton of hours, I really only like to go to the gym to lift, and really that's it. Maybe do a little bit of cardio. But typically, my cardio, I do it like at a different part of the day than when I go to the gym. So, like for example, today, I went on a walk this morning. Typically, at the beginning of my cut too, I tend to keep it pretty like. I tend not to overdo it on the cardio, just so I don't gas myself out or make me like. I kind of like to ease my way into it, right? I'm still losing weight. I'm still in a deficit, but I don't like just crank out the Stairmaster from day one. So in the beginning, like today, I just went on a walk outside. It was pretty nice outside, somewhat, at least for this time of year here. But yeah, I went on a walk around like 3 to 4 ish miles, and I did that on top of my like workout session or my weight training. And after I lifted weights, I went on the treadmill for a little bit, but it wasn't a long time. So I typically like to do my cardio like at a different time from the gym, just because it makes it more manageable for me. I don't like just working out for a shit ton of hours again. I'd rather, split it up throughout the day, and then you can even do something like you can even do something else and be productive while you're going on your walk or while you're doing your cardio, right? Like sometimes I listen to podcasts, sometimes I respond to emails, whatever it might be, but I do that like when I go on my walks, right? So that's a super super good tip, especially if you're looking to cut weight and you need to do some cardio. If you feel like it's a drag to do it when after you do your workouts or right before, see if you can do it at a different part of the day. I feel like for me that helped me out a lot, understanding that I can split this stuff up so that I'm not just doing and exercising just for like a huge chunk of time throughout the day, or a huge chunk of time at one point in the day, right? You kind of like split it up into several chunks or a different chunk. So but yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Again, thank you again for tuning in, and yeah, we'll continue this tomorrow. All right, peace out, guys. See ya.